Welcome. I'm sorry, I was still setting things up as I begin. Steve Margo here at Ask the Pastor Bible Study Live. And on this Friday evening's edition of Ask the Pastor, we are going to examine some of the claims that have been made by Pastor Billy Crone on Daystar TV just yesterday, pertaining to artificial intelligence, Trump, and the end times. So this is that picture, AI, Trump, and the Stargate policies, and it says shocking prophecy revealed. So I have a video here. It's on Daystar TV. I'm going to play right about 5 minutes of it. So I hope that you have the time, because I want you to hear the context of the conversation. We don't want to misquote anyone. We always try not to go by sound bites. We want to understand where is the person coming from? What are they saying? That way, when we examine and either confirm or refute, it is based on fairness. So allow me to bring them together here, this video. Now, this question was asked of me by Dawn Stead, who I'm going to tag once I start playing the video, from Australia. And she said, could you please address this issue? Could you play this video and explain what is really going on here? Is this actually about to happen? Are we about to see the Antichrist using artificial intelligence to bring about the fulfillment of Revelation 13? So without much further ado, here is Daystar TV with their presentation of that idea.
All around the world, nations are competing to win the artificial intelligence race, because whoever wins gets to control the future. And while the release of ChatGPT was a U.S. milestone, the launch of China's DeepSeek became a watershed moment.
I think we should take the development out of China very, very seriously.
What took Google and OpenAI years and hundreds of millions of dollars to build, DeepSeek says took it just 2 months and less than $6 million.
With national security on the line, the U.S. made a $500 billion investment in the Stargate AI project.
The largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, and it's all taking place right here in America.
While the benefits of AI may be useful to humanity, it risks toppling society and further empowering a small elite group with more control over human civilization.
Eventually you say to the computer, learn everything and do everything. And that's a dangerous point. When the system can self-improve, we need to seriously think about unplugging it.
But wouldn't that kind of system have the ability to counter our efforts to unplug it?
Well, in theory, we better have somebody with the hand on the plug, and metaphorically.
Since Bible prophecy predicted unsettling end-time events, we must pause and ask, is the acceleration of AI bringing us to the edge of prophetic fulfillment?
Well, that is my King, Jesus Christ. I hope that you lifted your hands and said, Jesus, you are my King. Baby, that's a great song.
It's such a good song.
You all sing it so good.
Such a good song.
I hope he's the King of your heart and life, because today is going to be really important. You know who you are in Christ Jesus.
That's right.
Because the intersection of technology and Bible prophecy is something that our guest has been studying for decades. But in your heart, you know we're experiencing this. But could the recent efforts to further advance AI point to the end-time prophecy fulfillment or expediting the process? Well, here to share the findings from his latest book, Trump and the Stargate Prophecies, is Pastor Billy Crone. Come on in, Billy. Good to see you. How you doing? Good to see you. Johnny, how you doing? Good to see you.
See ya.
Awesome.
I have to tell you that one of the singers, Rebecca, she leaned over as I was coming on the set, and she's like, I love it when Billy Crone is here. He always has such good information, what's going on prophetically, and so excited to be here. Why did you write the book, Trump, the Stargate Prophecies?
Well, I mean, part of it was wondering, misnomers out there that there's a weird dichotomy that's going on right now, and I'm sure you've noticed it in the even Christian community. And that is, if you say anything positive about President Trump, you got this one element that says, oh no, you voted for the Antichrist, and I refuse to work with you, right? You've heard that crowd. Then you go the other end of the spectrum, and you got Christians that have taken his second term as an excuse to, and they've literally said stuff like this, we got a 4-year vacation. It's like, no, we're never on a vacation in our walk in ministry of Christ. So they're in weird extremes. And the reality is this, I say this all the time, did you know that Bible prophecy did not stop just because President Trump got in office?
Right.
And then the irony of that is his first day in office, he launched this AI Stargate program. And for many years, involved in technology-related issues, part of my background, I'm very well aware of AI and what it's leading to from a Bible prophecy point of view. And so the first day in office, and this wasn't just a boost to AI, this was a $500 billion investment to speed up the process of AI. And so I'm going
because there's competitors.
Well, and here's the deal. I'm not saying, and just to clarify, I voted for Trump. I'm not anti-Trump. I'm not saying he's the Antichrist. I don't believe any of that.
Right.
I think that President Trump is doing this because of what he wants to do. He wants to make America great again. I believe that he believes it's going to help with creating jobs and things of that nature. But also, I believe it's a geopolitical issue. Because if you understand what's going on with the realm of AI, China for years has threatened that they will become the leader of AI, and they say it's going to happen by 2030. The previous administration, the Biden administration, purposely kept America on the ball and chain on developing AI. And then that's part of the talk with Biden was not just Biden, but China Joe, because he was working with China and helping to give them a boost and all that nature. And then Vladimir Putin even admitted on tape that whoever rules with AI will rule the world. And so there's a geopolitical issue. So we were purposely left behind the last administration. So here comes Trump, first day in office. Oh no, America, we're going to be the leaders in that. So I think there's an economic aspect. I think there's a geopolitical aspect. However, and this is the thing, there's a prophetic aspect.
Absolutely.
Because I am convinced Old and New Testament prophecies, AI is a major thing that is needed to permeate the planet in order to pull off the Antichrist kingdom.
Kind of like the roads were for the world. Rome had to build the roads so the gospel could be preached.
Yeah.
In the same way, the Antichrist needs the roads of the world and access to all the information, even your biometrics, so that the world can be influenced.
Yeah, what will AI do? Like, why is it important for the Antichrist to have access to AI technology?
It's a biblical extrapolation, Jody, and that's part of, you go to Revelation 13, and that gives us, it's not the only passage, but it's a big passage that gives us a lot of detail about what the Antichrist is going to do in the 7-year tribulation. And first of all, it's a global context. And so it's a global big brother society because they're going to be able to give out an order instantly across the planet. They're going to apparently know what people do with that order, whether or not they obeyed. Then they're even going to know their location anywhere on the planet, because if they don't obey, it says they're going to be killed if you don't worship the beast. Then he also installs on a global basis a cashless electronic currency economy that will control everything, because it says he controls all the buying and selling. No one will be able to buy and sell, rich and poor, free and slave, the whole planet, without receiving this mark. So it's a global basis. So you just look at it and you go, wait a second, how is that feasibly going to happen? Right? We've had microchip technology for a long time that can mark every product, every person, whatever. We've had computers for quite some time that can handle databases and things of that nature. We've had satellite technology that can help tie in a lot of this stuff. What's missing is the management system, because a global basis where you're controlling every aspect of a big brother monitoring society, every single financial transaction, every product, every person trying to buy and sell, you can't hire enough humans for that. You need something superhuman. That's where AI comes in. And that's not just a theory based on that biblical.
Well, I am back. I promised to play about 5 minutes. Actually, I went ahead and played about 7 minutes.
If you know the industry, that's exactly what they're doing.
So I played about 7 minutes or so of that video. I will link the whole interview It's on Daystar TV. This was actually yesterday's edition or yesterday's broadcast at Daystar TV with Johnny Lamb. And I don't know if that's her new husband or who he is. But anyway, that's Pastor Billy Crone. And Pastor Billy Crone is saying, and if need be, I will go back there and play it from the 5-minute mark. He's saying that Revelation 13, the mark of the beast and the Antichrist, even though there is no such word there in Revelation, but we can give space for that. He says all that will be fulfilled because now we have artificial intelligence that will be able to manage the whole beast system. And so that's what I want us to examine, because obviously when people hear such things and when people hear, oh, this is it, we are now ready for the Antichrist, we are now ready to see the man of lawlessness, we are now ready to see the beast system operating in fulfillment, people get scared, people get terrified, people get concerned. And a lot of times when you're hearing it from a pastor, when you're hearing it from a person who is supposed to be an expert, most people take it for granted. But I want us to examine it and see, is it true? Is it accurate to say that Revelation 13 is about to be fulfilled in the near future? Well, let's go back here, and I'm going to again play it from about the 5th-minute mark. I'm only going to play a minute now, and I'm just going to examine it from there. We are going to compare what Pastor Billy Crone says with Scripture. So here we go. Once again, Pastor Billy Crone.
Purposely left behind the last administration. So here comes Trump, first day in office. Oh no, America, we're going to be the leaders in that. So I think there's an economic aspect. I think there's a geopolitical aspect. However, and this is the thing, there's a prophetic aspect.
Absolutely.
Because I am convinced Old and New Testament prophecies, AI is a major thing that is needed to permeate the planet in order to pull off the Antichrist kingdom.
Kind of like the roads were for.
Now that is where we are going to begin. So he says all the New Testament prophecies require AI in order to bring together the Antichrist kingdom. So in other words, if you go to Matthew 24, you go to Luke 21, Mark 13, you go to the prophecies made by Paul, you go to the book of Revelation, Pastor Billy Crone suggests that you need computer technology in order to fulfill these prophecies. Well, we have to begin there. Is this really true? Does the Bible suggest or even imply, implicitly or explicitly, that you would need high level of technology in order to fulfill New Testament prophecies? Well, let's look at something here. I'm just gonna pull one particular passage here just for us to use, and I'm gonna use the book of Mark. Okay, Mark, and we're going to go to Mark 13. Okay, so go with me to Mark 13. Let us see if this is called for. So in Mark 13, Jesus is going to be given what is called the Olivet prophecy, which is parallel to Matthew chapter 24. So Jesus foretells the destruction of the temple. So we are going to test to see if what what his name, Billy Crone is saying can be sustained just immediately. So as he came out of the temple, one of the disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what wonderful stones, what wonderful buildings." And Jesus said to him, "Do you see these great buildings? There will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." Now that's a prophecy. These buildings will all be destroyed. Does that require any technology? Will that require AI, computers, bombs? It could, but here's a problem. Whatever Jesus is prophesying about in Mark 13, Matthew 24, Luke 21, already took place 40 years after the fulfillment after the prophecy. So in other words, whatever Jesus is prophesying here did not need 1900 years of technology to grow. Moreover, when he will begin to prophesy even more, because his disciples come to him afterwards, after he says the temple is going to be destroyed, as he sat on the Mount of Olives. So here is Peter, James, John, and Andrew. And they ask him privately, tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign when these things are about to be accomplished? So Jesus is going to give them many signs. He's going to talk about deception. He's going to talk about wars and rumors of wars. He's going to talk about nations fighting against nations, earthquakes, famines, pestilences, birth pains, all this stuff. Then he's going to, when you get to verse 14, he's going to talk about the abomination of desolation. Now, notice that the abomination of desolation is happening at the temple that is about to be destroyed. That is in verse number 1 and verse number 2. And then, quite enigmatically, when Jesus gives all these signs, including that after the tribulation of those days, the sun is darkened, the moon does not give its light, the stars fall from heaven, and so on and so forth. And then they see the Son of Man coming with in clouds with great power and glory. And the angels are sent to gather his elect from the four winds. Look at what Jesus says here in verse number 29. So also, when you see these things taking place, the things pertaining to the destruction of the temple and the things that were to precede the destruction of the temple, you know that he, the Son of Man, is very near at the very gates. Truly, I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place. So this has to be the foundational point that you approach any of these things that you hear today, where people say, oh, Revelation is being fulfilled right before your eyes. Trump is president, Trump is Antichrist, or Trump is not Antichrist, Obama is Antichrist, AI this, microchips this. You go into Jesus's prophecy. Jesus is the standard of prophecy. And Jesus says, this generation in which the temple is going to be destroyed, the temple standing before Peter, James, John, and Andrew, all these things will be fulfilled in this generation. And we have the historical fact that the temple was destroyed. So these things, unless Jesus did not know what he was talking about, these things have nothing to do with AI. They have nothing to do with modern technology. They actually have nothing to do with our present time of history. These things have to do with the past. Things have already happened. So that now, when we continue to listen to this gentleman talking about the kingdom of the Antichrist, the kingdom of the man of lawlessness, we need to understand that the kingdom of the Antichrist, or the kingdom of the man of lawlessness, or the system of the beast, all these things were prophesied to take place within the generation of Jesus's original disciples, not in our times. But let's allow him to continue to speak, and then I will go to Revelation 13 after this, once he brings that up in a minute or so. So here we go back to Pastor Billy Crone as he continues to give this theory.
The world, Rome had to build the roads so the gospel could be preached.
Yeah.
In the same way, the Antichrist needs the roads of the world and access to all the information, even your biometrics, so that the world can be influenced.
Yeah, what will AI do? Like, why is it important for the Antichrist to have access to AI technology?
It's a biblical extrapolation, Jody, and that's part of, you go to Revelation 13, and that gives us, it's not the only passage, but it's a big passage that gives us a lot of detail about what the Antichrist is going to do in the 7-year tribulation. And first of all, it's a global context.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a global Big Brother society, because they're going to be able to give out an order instantly across the planet. They're going to apparently know what people do with that order, whether or not they obeyed. Then they're even going to know their location anywhere on the planet, because if they don't obey, it says they're going to be killed if you don't worship the beast. Then he also installs on a global basis a cashless electronic currency economy that will control everything, because it says he controls all the buying and selling. No one will be able to buy and sell, rich and poor, free and slave, the whole planet, without receiving this mark. So it's a global basis. So you just look at it and you go, wait a second, how is that feasibly going to happen? Right? We've had microchip technology for a long time that can mark every product, every person, whatever. We've had computers for quite some time that can handle databases and things of that nature. We've had satellite technology that can help tie in a lot of this stuff. What's missing is the management system, because a global basis where you're controlling every aspect of a big brother monitoring society, every single financial transaction, every product, every person trying to buy and sell, you can't hire enough humans for that. You need something superhuman. That's where AI comes in. And that's not just a theory based on that biblical text. If you know the industry, that's exactly what they're doing with AI. AI is now running the back end of the financial system across the planet, monitoring every.
All right. So Pastor Billy Crone says that when you go to Revelation 13, I want you to note, and I hope that you are listening, that he postulates and he immediately says that Revelation 13 is speaking about a system that is global, a system that is operating in every country of the world, and this system is able to control people everywhere, in every place. This is what he is coming off of. And he says the only way you are able to accomplish that has to be now or in our future, where now we have the technology, we have the artificial intelligence to manage all that. That's what the Antichrist needs. Well, let's go to Revelation 13 and let's see if this can be sustained. So Revelation chapter number 13, and we are going to pick it up right from verse number 1. Okay. So I might not be able to come back to Pastor Billy, because now we have a pretty good idea of what he's talking about. So he tells us, if you go to Revelation 13, you read Revelation 13, you should be able to just come off and say, wow, you will need a superhuman management system in order to fulfill this. Well, let us see. Let's read this passage in Revelation 13. I'm going to start from verse number 1. Remember, this is the passage that talks about 666. This is the passage that speaks about not being able to buy or sell. So we will need to go through this whole passage. I will not read it all at once. I will go piece by piece. So this is our examination of Revelation 13 according to John versus Revelation 13 according to Pastor Billy Crone and his theory of artificial intelligence. So verse number 1. And I saw a beast. I saw a beast rising out of the sea. Now, I want you to pay attention to that. The beast comes out of the sea. So immediately, I will ask you this question, and if you know the answer, please go ahead and give the answer right there in the comment section. What is this sea? What is this beast? What is the beast, and what is it that comes out of the sea? Is the beast a person? Is the beast a creature of the forest? Is the beast a government? Is the beast a nation? Is the beast a corporation? What is the beast? And what is this sea that it comes out of? So this beast comes out of the sea. It has 10 horns, and it has 7 heads, and it has 10 diadems or crowns on its horns, and it has blasphemous names on its head. Verse number 2, and the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet were like a bear's. Its mouth was like a lion's. And to it, the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. So let's deal with those 2 verses so that we don't bite off too much. So first thing. Now, Tom Hillard answers that question. He says the sea is Gentiles. Ricky answers and says the beast is a people. Now, both Ricky and Tom have obviously been doing their homework, and it is correct. So the beast is really an empire. The beast is an organization of government or an organization of authority. It doesn't have to be a government. It could be a religious organization. It could be a government, but it's a setup that is ruling. That's what the beast is. The beast is multifaceted. It is not just one single individual. The beast comes out of the sea. And as Tom Hillard indicated there, the sea is the Gentiles. Now, how do we figure that out? Very quickly, we actually let the scriptures interpret the scriptures. If we go back to the book of Daniel, right there, and we go to Daniel chapter 7, because Daniel chapter 7 is directly related to Revelation 13, it gives you all these things so that you don't have to do any guesswork. So we see here in Daniel 7, Daniel says, in the first year of Belshazzar, the king of Babylon, during the 70-year captivity, Daniel saw a dream and visions of his head as he lay in his bed. Then he wrote down the dream and told the sum of the matter. Good to see you, Shizna, by the way. She says hi to everyone. Shizna, can you be my secretary and just tag everybody that you can remember and invite them? And anybody else who wants to do that, you can also do that. Highlight at everyone, all that. So anyway, Daniel declared, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven. The four winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. Hope you can see that there. So we have the sea already. Okay, and four great beasts came up out of the sea. So very similar, right? So therefore, clearly Daniel and Revelation, John, are using the same terminologies. So they were different from one another. Let's see these beasts that come. Daniel sees four beasts. Daniel sees four beasts. John sees two. So the first beast was like a lion. It had eagle's wings. Then as I looked, its wings were plucked off. It was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and the mind of a man was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second one. It was like a bear. It was raised up on one side. It had 3 ribs in its mouth, and between its teeth it was told, arise, devour much flesh. After this I looked, and behold, a third beast, like a leopard, with 4 wings of a bird on its back, and the beast had 4 heads. Now this one is like a leopard. Dominion was given to it. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, terrifying, dreadful, exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces, stamped out what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it. It had 10 horns. So immediately, you should be able to see, oh, wait a minute. Daniel's 4th beast is John's first beast. Daniel's 4th beast is Daniel's first beast, because the first beast of Daniel in Revelation 13, you are told that the beast that rises out of the sea, just like those other ones, just like the 4, has 10 horns. That's where it begins. It has 10 horns, just like the 4th beast of Daniel. Now, why is this important? Scholars have long been in agreement that the 4 beasts represent the Gentile empires of the ancient world, the 4 beasts of Daniel. So if the 4th beast of Daniel is the first beast of John, then you can connect the two. So you can say, wait a minute, the 4 beasts of Daniel are, the first one, the lion, is Babylon. The second one, the bear, is Persia. The third one, the leopard, is Greece. And then the 4th one, the one that has 10 horns in Daniel, historically, it has been identified as Rome. I will not be able to get into the reasons why, but that's incorrect. And you can go into my channel, YouTube channel, and you can find a video in which I have said why Rome is not the 4th beast. Or you can go to Adam Marshall's podcast, or rather Blogspot, and it's called Pursuing Truth. And he has all the data to show it's impossible for Rome to be the 4th beast. But nevertheless, let's assume it is Rome, because that's the historically allowed position. So you have the first kingdom being Babylon, the second being Persia, the third being Greece, the fourth being Rome. Remember, Rome existed in John's time. Rome stopped existing as a kingdom, as an empire, in 471 AD, in the Common Era. So, therefore, that already tells you that whatever the beast of John is, it is operating sometime during the lifetime of John and no later than 471 AD, more than 1500 years ago. So there's just no way that this has to do with our time. It is actually John's time. Moreover, the four beasts come out of the sea. The sea is not the Indian Ocean or the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic Ocean. The sea is actually an identification of Gentile regions. The Gentile region of Babylon, the Gentile region of Persia, the Gentile region of Greece. And of course, all these kingdoms used to cover whole swaths of land. So the sea is a geographical area within the prophecy. And it's a geographical area within the land mass of the Middle East. This is really important. Why? Because as you will see, the beast that comes out of the sea in Revelation 13 rules not in the sea. It does not rule in the sea. It only rules in the portion called the earth, which is a separate geographical region within the geography of Revelation 13. What I'm trying to show you is this. It's not global. It's only happening in one place of the geography of Revelation 13. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So, I saw a beast rising out of the sea, which is the Gentile nations. It has 10 horns. It has 7 heads. It has 10 crowns, 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its head. The beast that I saw was like Greece. Its feet were like Persia. Its mouth was like Babylon. So do you see that whatever beast that John is seeing has the characteristics of Babylon, Persia, and Greece? So it is the empire, it is the authority that comes after Greece, which, for interest of just time, I'm going to declare it is the Israelite kingdom that begins with the Maccabees and transitions into the Herodian kingdom and ends in 70 AD. That's the fourth beast. The fourth beast looks like Babylon. Let me tell you why. Why does it look like the lion? First, because the Israelites had gone into captivity in Babylon. They were in Babylon for 70 years. But during the 70-year captivity, Babylon, which was their cultural master, Babylon got defeated by Persia. Persia became their cultural master for another 100 years or so, actually more than 100 years. And it is during the Persian Empire that the Israelites begin going back to Israel, but they come back with the characteristics of Babylon and Persia. But during the time of Persia, Persia is defeated by Alexander the Great, the son of King Macedon of Macedonia. King Alexander the Great becomes the king of Greece, Greater Greece, and of the whole known world at the time. So now the Israelites gain characteristics of Babylonians, Persians, and the Greeks. By the time you come into the New Testament, what is the New Testament written in? It's written in Greek. Where Jesus and his mother live in Nazareth is called the Galilee of the Gentiles. They spoke Greek in that particular area. Because now they have the customs, they have the cultural tendencies, they have the language of the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Greeks. That's why, by the way, there's so much demonology in the New Testament. People don't realize this. Why is it that in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it's casting this demon out, demon here, demon there, demon there, demon there? Where is all this coming from? Whereas when you go into Genesis to Malachi, not a single demon. not a single binding of demons, not a single casting out of demons. What happened? What happened in between Genesis and Malachi and Matthew? Well, they went into Babylon, and then they went into Persia, and then they went into Greece, and then they came out of that sea. And they came out with all these pagan, heathen beliefs. Deuteronomy 32 speaks about how these people in the final generation were going to fear gods, which are not gods at all, demons that their fathers had never known nor feared. That's where the demonology is coming from. So, now let's look closer at this fourth beast of Daniel, this first beast of John. Revelation 13 continues. He says, and to eat to the first beast of John, which is the fourth beast of Daniel, which comes out of the Gentile nations, out of Gentile captivity, to eat, the dragon gave its power. So the dragon is even greater than the beast. The dragon is greater than the beast. The beast serves at the behest under the authority of the dragon. The dragon is what gives power and authority to the beast. Well, what is the dragon? Well, the dragon is in chapter number 12. The dragon is the one who had been accusing the brothers, the brethren, day and night. Or, if it's translated correctly, he had been accusing the brethren, Revelation 12:10, night and day. Night and day. The dragon is the Sanhedrin, and particularly the head of the dragon is the high priest. The head of the dragon is the high priest. It is the Levitical order. It is what was coming before God every evening for the evening sacrifice, every morning for the morning sacrifice, to bring the sins of Israel before God. So understand the context of Revelation. Revelation is about the fulfillment of the day of the Lord. The day of the Lord is part of the judgments that are promised in Deuteronomy, in Leviticus, and in the prophets. Behold, the day of the Lord is coming. Joel chapter 2. The day of the Lord, the great and awesome day of the Lord, Malachi chapter 4. So all these things are ingrained in the context of the Old Testament. It has nothing to do with computers. It has nothing to do with microchips. It has everything to do with the law of Moses. If you don't know the law of Moses, if you don't know the Torah, if you don't know the Tanakh, you have no chance whatsoever of understanding Revelation 13. Because Revelation 13 is telling you how Jesus comes at the end of the age of the law to fulfill the law and the prophets. He is here to fulfill all the promises made by God in the Tanakh and in the Torah. So watch this. So the dragon, which is the high priest, gives its power and its authority and its throne to the beast. Now watch what the beast does. Verse number 3. One of the heads of the beast seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled. Now watch that. Who? The whole earth. The whole earth. So notice there are two regions of geography. There is the sea from whence the beast comes. There is the earth, which is marveling at the beast that has come from the sea. And just to kind of give you the overview, if you get over to verse number 11, you are told that there is a second beast. There is not only one beast in Revelation 13. You are told that I saw another beast, this one arising out of the earth. So you have two geographical regions. We already know that the sea is the Gentile nations. Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, whatever. So what is the earth? Obviously, the earth is not the planet Earth, because the Gentile nations also belong to the planet Earth, as we now know it. But the writer of Daniel and the writer of Revelation is telling you there is a beast coming out of the region called the sea, and there is a beast coming out of the region called the earth. So if the sea is the Gentile nations, what do you think the earth is? It's pretty simple. The earth then would be the land surrounded by the sea. All of this is being derived out of Genesis chapter number 1. Because in Genesis chapter number 1, we have the creation of a heaven and an earth, but the earth is covered in water in verse number 2. The earth is formless and void, and it is covered in water, and it is in darkness. Then God says, let there be light over these waters. And then he says, after that, after separating the light from the darkness, he says, now let there be a separation between the waters below that are covering the whole earth and the waters above. Okay, so that's the second separation. So first separation is between light and darkness. Second separation between waters and waters. That separation is between the waters under the heavens, so that all the waters are gathered in one place and there is one earth. The earth is where Adam is created from and given dominion on. The sea is where the Gentiles dwell, and Adam has dominion first over the fish of the sea, then over the beasts of the land, and over the birds of the air, and over the creeping things of the ground. All these are symbols of covenant geography, covenant demographics. It's not about material continents or material oceans. All these are symbols. The sea represents the people who are farthest away from the covenant. They are within the covenant, but they are the farthest away. They would later on be called Gentiles. The land or the earth represents those that are within touching distance of the garden. The garden is the Holy Land. But outside of the garden, there are nations. They are still in the earth. They are not in the sea. They are close enough to the earth, to the land, to the garden, to the soil, to the Adamah, but they are not as far, religiously speaking, because the distance here is religious, not physical. How far are you to knowing God, to knowing his law, to knowing his priests, to being able to worship at his temple? This is how they are divided up. So the earth in Revelation 13 is Israel. The earth is Israel. We together? So now let's read it again. Hopefully now you will be able to get the context of Revelation 13. Because you have to understand the symbolism that starts in Genesis 1. So now, when you read it now, I'm going to put these words, Gentiles and Israel, Jew and Gentile. So I'm going to use Paul's terminology. So I saw a beast. I saw an authority system rising out of the Gentile regions. It had 10 leaders. It had 7 leaders. So that the 10 horns are individual leaders. The 7 are offices. So we have 7 offices. There are 10 individual leaders. There are 10 crowns. Those are the 10 individual leaders. So, and there are blasphemous names on the heads. So their heads, they have names of blasphemy on the heads, not on the crowns, on the heads. So, and the beasts, this authority system that I saw, looked like Greece, the leopard with 4 wings. Its feet were like Persia. Its mouth was like Babylon. So you can see it's a whole beast. So you are shown its body, you are shown its feet, you are shown its mouth. And then the dragon, which is greater than the beast, gives its power and its throne and his great authority to the beast. One of the heads of the beast seems to have had a mortal wound from the past, but its mortal wound was healed. And the whole land of Israel, remember the earth is Israel, and the whole land and the surrounding nations around Israel marveled as they followed the beast. So this is what the people are following. So to give you an example, in Jesus' time, you have Rome being represented by Pilate. Rome is a beast. And you have the high priest is the dragon. And you have the authority of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the authority of King Herod. And you will notice that in Jesus's trial, Jesus goes through all these three areas of judgment. He is first taken to the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin sentences him to death. He's sent to Herod. Herod sends him to Pilate. Right? They are all sharing authority, but they are all within Israel. They are within the earth. They are not in the sea. Rome comes from the sea. The Pharisees, the Sadducees, they began to exist from the earth. And of course, Jesus is a part of the people in the earth. So, but the people are following the beast, which has been given authority by the dragon. So you remember when Jesus comes before Pilate, Pilate says, I find nothing wrong with this man. I just think he's innocent. And he says, you guys make a decision yourself. And the people are standing in that court and they are waiting for a leadership who is going to tell us what to do. And the Pharisees tell the people, you must demand for Barabbas. And the people begin to say, we want Barabbas. We want Barabbas. What do you want me to do with the Christ, the King of the Jews? Crucify him. Now the people were following the lead of the Pharisees. So that's where you see where you are told that the whole earth marveled and followed the beast. So these are the twin authorities of the Jews. Now, as you go on, you hear them say, and he's going to expand this, and they worshipped the dragon. They worshipped the dragon. They worshipped the high priest. For he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? And who can fight against it? And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority. How long? For 42 months. Now that's very important. So it exercises authority for 42 months. I want to show you that this beast issue is not global. It is not and cannot be global, because the Revelation is detailing for you Matthew 24. Matthew 24 is about the destruction of the temple. Matthew 24 is about the great tribulation in Judea. When you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place of the temple, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. So watch this. If I take you back to Revelation 11, so remember there are 42 months. So the beast is allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. It opens its mouth to utter blasphemies against God. So it is aware of God. It blasphemes his name. It blasphemes his dwelling. That is, it blasphemes those who dwell in heaven. Also, it makes war on the saints. And it conquers them. So these saints have not been raptured. So this whole pre-tribulation disappearance of Christians is utter hogwash. So the authority was given to it over every tribe, people, and language and nation, and all who dwell on the earth, not in the sea. So make the distinction. All who dwell on the earth are the ones worshiping it. So the tribes and peoples and languages are those on the earth, not those in the sea, not the Gentiles, but the people within the Holy Land of Israel. Everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb. Now the Lamb is the Prince of Israel. So his book will only include the names of Israelites. Let me prove this real quick, because we have Daniel here. So look at this. Daniel chapter 12. What is this book that people are being written to? Who is being written in this book? Is it everybody in the world? Let it just tell itself. At that time shall arise Michael, the great prince, who has charge of your people. So this is very limited. Michael has only jurisdiction over the people of Daniel, Israel. And there shall be a time of tribulation, trouble, such as has not been since there was a nation till that time. But at that time your people, Israelites, shall be delivered, saved, rescued. Everyone whose name shall be found written in the book. So where are Americans being rescued here? Americans are not being rescued. You know why? Because they are not part of the prophecy. They are not part of the target region. This is a very limited geographical region and also chronological region, chronological time, because it's happening in the 1st century. So, but at that time, your people shall be like everyone. That's the same prophecy. Revelation 13. Everyone whose name has not been written in the Lamb's book of life from the foundation of the world. These are all Israelites. They are part of the earth. Excuse me, one second, guys. So the earth in Revelation is Israel. The sea is the Gentiles. And throughout the New Testament, Paul, Peter, all of them will only ever speak about the distinction between Jews and Gentiles. Gentiles are not from the land of Israel. That's what the prophecy is talking about. So that now, once you understand that Revelation 13, the beast that comes out of the sea comes out of a particular part of the world called the sea. There are people there. There are systems there. But those systems are not the focus of the activities of the beast, because the beast is only operating within the land. Look at Revelation 11. That's where I was going to take you a moment ago. So the 42 months. Remember the 42 months. Pay attention to the 42 months. Stay with the 42 months. Look at this. It says, then I was given a measuring rod like a staff, and I was told, rise, measure the temple of God. That's in Jerusalem. And the altar. That's this altar of sacrifice. And those who worship there. Okay. Or this is the temple of the Jews. Do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it is given over to the nations, the Gentiles. And they will trample the holy city for 42 months. So do you see? The 42 months in Revelation 13, where the beast is reigning, are the same 42 months in the holy city, is Jerusalem. And I will grant authority to my 2 witnesses to prophesy for, by the way, 1260 days is the same as 42 months, same exact. I really apologize, brethren. I had to take care of some issue there with one of my kids. So in Revelation 11, that's where the beast is mentioned first. So if you want to understand the beast, you cannot just start in the middle of everything. You have to start where the beast is mentioned first in Revelation. Of course, you need to start where the beast is mentioned first in the Bible, which is Genesis chapter number 1. That's where the beast is first mentioned. And the beast that is mentioned, or the beasts that are mentioned in Genesis 1, are the same beasts that you will meet in Revelation. They are people. The beasts in Genesis and the beasts in Revelation are people. So anyway, now here we find the beast. So it's in Jerusalem, it's in the holy city. But this is what we are told about it, so that we can pay now attention at this whole thing. It says the two witnesses are the two olive trees and the two lampstands that stand before the Lord of the earth, the Lord of Israel, the God of Israel. And if anyone would harm them, fire pours from their mouth and consumes their foes. If anyone would harm them, this is how he is doomed to be killed. They have the power to shut the sky, that no rain may fall during the days of their prophesying, and they have the power over the waters to turn them into blood and to strike the earth. So always pay attention to that. Earth, sea. Which dimension are we dealing with? Are we in the sea, which is the Gentile nations, or are we on the earth, which is Israel and its immediate neighbors? They are able to strike the earth because this is Israel. It's under the law. Notice that these two witnesses do the work of Moses and Elijah. The curses of Moses and the curses of Elijah. So now, when they have finished their testimony, the beast that rises from the bottomless pit, which is Sheol, which is the abyss, will make war on them and conquer them, just like we were told in Revelation 13. So this thing is going to be repeated a number of times. It is the same story. You're just being given different camera angles. So you have the beast rising from the bottomless pit in Revelation 13. You're told it rises out of the sea. In Revelation 13:11, you're told it rises from the earth. It's the same entities. They are related. But anyway, it makes war on the saints, on the two witnesses, which is the church, and conquers them and kills them. These are the apostles. So the two witnesses, really, they are the law and the prophets, but they are being embodied by Peter and Paul. If you want to have, okay, give me a historical point of view, it's Peter and Paul. Peter to the Israelites, to the circumcision, Paul to the Gentiles. So now, their dead bodies, this is symbolism. Their dead bodies will lie in the street of the great city that symbolically is called Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was crucified. It's Jerusalem. For 3.5 days, some of the people of the tribes and languages and the nations will gaze. So these peoples and tribes and languages and nations, they are all in the city. This is Acts chapter 2. Remember in Acts chapter 2 where on the day of Pentecost, when they start speaking in tongues, what does the writer of Acts tell you? It says, there was gathered in Jerusalem Jews from every nation under heaven. But they were all from different languages. They were all Jews, but they were all speaking different languages. You see, you're supposed to be putting all that together. You're supposed to be able to connect all that as a student of the Bible. You see? So now, Required Mailbox says, some preterists say that when Paul was killed, that's when Satan was loosed. Since I've not really heard about that view or why, I'm not going to comment on it. I would rather first of all see the data to see why are they claiming that, because we know now it's possible that Paul was killed in 66 AD. There is that theory. And of course, 66 AD is when the Great Revolt begins. So it's possible. It's also possible that Peter was killed in 66 AD. So there's always that theory also. So anyway, so it connects. I can see how that can be. I just have not considered that view. But anyway, so when you see the people's tribes languages in Revelation 13, you should not immediately start to think, oh, that's global, that's America, that's South America, that's Australia. No, you should stay within the context. It already told you that these activities are taking place within 42 months, within 1260 days, within the holy city, within the temple context. The temple is the center of this prophecy, starting from verse 1. So it says, I was told to measure the temple. I was told to measure the temple. So the beast here in Revelation 11, I meant to go back to Revelation 11. The beast in Revelation 11 is operating only within the confines of Jerusalem. They trample the holy city, Jerusalem. The two witnesses, their bodies lie. It's a symbol. It's not literal. You're not supposed to take it literally. Their bodies lie in the street of the great city that is called Sodom and Egypt, where their Lord was crucified, and so on and so forth. So that now, once you understand that, by the time you get to chapter number 13, you should not be coming up with another version or idea about the beast or where it is operating, or it's global, or it's in America, or it's in 2025. No, you should ask yourself, where is the temple? Where are the sacrifices? Because that's what is in view. And indeed, when you get to Revelation 13, now let's go to the 666 passage, because I want to finish this quick. You get to verse number 10, so I'm going to just pick it up from verse number 10, the second beast. This is the uniquely Jewish beast. Why? Because this beast forms and comes together from the land. So the word earth is, in Greek, is the word ge, which if you are Hebrew, it would be the word eretz. Eretz always identifies the Holy Land, the land of Canaan. So I saw another beast rising out of the land of Israel. It had two horns. Horns are leaders. It had two horns like a lamb. Why are they like a lamb? In other words, their office is supposed to be an office of peace. They are supposed to be bringing peace to the land. So, for instance, you have two leaders within the Israel system. You have a high priest, who is, of course, supposed to be bringing the covenant of peace to the people. You have a king, who is supposed to be maintaining peace for the people. So this one was formed from the land. This one did not come out of the sea. So now, but it speaks like a dragon. It has ill motives. So that's the symbolism there. So it tells you, this second beast exercises all the authority of the first beast. So it derives its power from the first beast. And not only that, it exercises its authority in the presence of the first beast. So they are occurring together. And if it's in his presence, since we have already established that the first beast is operating within the holy city for 42 months within Jerusalem, then even the second one is operating within Jerusalem. There is nothing global about this. This is all about giving you more details concerning Matthew 24, Luke 21, Mark 13. So it exercises all authority, all the authority of the first beast in its presence. And it makes the earth, not the sea. It makes the earth and its inhabitants to worship the first beast. Now remember, if you know Revelation well, you're going to go over to Revelation 21 and you're going to be told, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. So the sea is definitely, throughout the prophecy, a different, unique geographical region and demographic region from the earth. First heaven, first earth, first sea. New heaven, new earth, no sea, no Gentiles. Because in the new heaven, the new earth, which is in Christ, there is no Jew or Gentile. But the first heaven and the first earth, which is in Adam, which is in Moses, does have a heaven, which is the priesthood. Heaven is always the priesthood. It has an earth, which is the citizenship. It has a sea, which is the aliens. The aliens. But in Christ, there is a new priesthood, heaven. There is a new citizenship, which comes from heaven also. I saw New Jerusalem coming out of heaven, and it has no sea, no aliens. No aliens. So now, so these are the terms that are being used. So it makes the land, it makes the Israelites and its inhabitants worship the first beast. So this is a worship context. This is a temple context. This has nothing to do with AI. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing to do with the European Union. It has nothing to do with whatever people are saying it is about. Microchips and phone numbers and all that. It has everything to do with the end of the sacrificial system. Watch, so that you can know it is really the end of the sacrificial system. Look at what this beast is going to do. So it makes the people to worship the first beast whose mortal wound was healed. It performs great signs, miracles, signs, particularly signs. It makes even fire to come down from heaven in front of the people. It makes fire to come down from heaven to earth in front of the people. I mean, if you know your Old Testament well, and remember in the New Testament era, in the first century, all they have is Genesis to Malachi. Revelation is being written at the same time that the letters of Paul are being written. So what is the audience of John, who are mostly Jews in the first century, because the church was more Jewish than Gentile in the first century? What do you think they're immediately thinking? They're thinking, oh, wait a minute. I remember that. That's Solomon at the temple. Once he dedicates the temple, fire comes from heaven, burns the sacrifices. Oh, that's Elijah, the God who answereth by fire. He is God. So they understand the context. They understand the terminology. So what does the beast do? The beast is in the priesthood. It is performing sacrifices at the temple in Jerusalem. And because it is allowed to perform signs that are from the Old Testament, then the people are deceived and they continue to follow it, the people of Israel. And by the signs that it is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, not those who are in the sea. It only deceives those who are on the earth. The earth is Israel. The earth is centered around Jerusalem. So telling them to make an image to the beast, which was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Remember, the sword here is the word of God. So it is more than likely that the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived is talking about Old Covenant Israel. It had been destroyed in 587 BC. It seemed that it was gone, but then it came back. And the temple that was there during Herod's time was so much greater than the one that had been there before. So much bigger. So the people that are living in Jesus' time, they are worshiping the temple. They are worshiping the priesthood. They are worshiping the high priest because they're saying, oh man, this is the greatest ever. And Jesus is saying, don't do that. This is my Father's house. Don't turn it into a den of robbers. So anyway, so it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast. This is just symbolism, guys. The image, the terminology of image is derived from Genesis chapter 1. God said, let us make men in our image. The image is somebody who represents you. It's not a statue. It's not a physical thing. It's who do you give your authority to represent you, who stands in front of the people, and people say, he's like a God. He's like a God. Do you remember when, I can't remember which part of, might be Acts chapter 11, might be 13, I can't remember exactly. But it says that Herod stood before the people and he spoke, and the people said, he's like a god. And when James rebuked him, James said, you will die, and he dies and he's eaten by maggots. But that's before he kills James, right? And the people think he's like a god. By what image is he operating? By what power is he operating? This is happening in the book of Acts. So it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak and cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. I just gave you the example. Herod, he is operating under the authority. And now they say he's like a god. And he kills James, the brother of John. Also, it causes all where? All within the earth, all within Israel. Both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave. That sequencing of terminology is always used concerning the nation of Israel. You can go to Jeremiah 7. You can go to Revelation 6. These are the different categories, small and great, because there were the kings, there were the commoners. There were the rich, there were the poor. There were free people, there were slaves. This is the whole system of Israel. So, to be marked on the right hand or on the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is the name of the beast or the number of its name. You see, or. So what is this meaning? First and foremost, already by the time you get to Revelation 13, this issue of being marked with a mark has already been handled in Revelation 7. If you did not understand it in Revelation 7, that's why you get to Revelation 13 and begin to mystify it and begin to make it something else it is not. In Revelation 7, an angel is told, hold back the four winds, do not harm the earth, do not harm the sea, do not harm the oil, until we have marked the servants of God on their forehead. And they marked 144,000. Now, nobody teaches that and says that there is a technological mark for Revelation 7 or a microchip mark for Revelation 7. Everybody that I've ever had teach understands that the mark in Revelation 7 is a spiritual identifying mark. It is from Ezekiel. It is, well, really, if you want to go all the way back to find out where the mark is from Genesis 4, the mark of Cain. It's how do you identify the true servants of God, and how do you identify the true apostates like Cain. So the mark is not physical. It is not physical in Genesis 4. It is not physical in Ezekiel. It is not physical in Revelation 7. It is not physical in Revelation 13. It is something that you are supposed to see in the character or the words, the lifestyle of a person. It is on the forehead and it is on the right hand. Why? Forehead represents thoughts. What you think. What you think comes through your mouth. That's how I know which mark you bear, your confession. It's on the right hand because the right hand is the right hand of power. The right hand is what you do for a living. The right hand represents work, what you trust in for sustenance. So the people of God, they think godly thoughts, they confess the godly message. They work for the food that does not perish. Their work is to believe. What is the work that we must do so that we may please God? This is the work that you must do. Believe in the one whom God has sent. But the people who are under the law, first of all, their thinking is futile. Their thinking is defiled. They are thinking, I can keep this law. I can be justified by keeping the law. So this is the kind of thoughts that Paul gives you in Philippians chapter 3. He says, listen, if when it comes to righteousness under the law, I was perfect. I was a Pharisee. I was a Hebrew of Hebrews. I had the whole pedigree. I did everything that was necessary to obtain it. But then he comes and realizes whatever I've been working for has been vanity of vanities. I've achieved nothing. All my works are as filthy rags before God. Therefore, he says, I gave it all up. I considered it to be dung. I considered it to be poop. I left it all. Then I started depending on faith in Christ, the righteousness that comes by faith rather than the righteousness that comes from trusting in the law. This is what it is about. The mark is distinguishing Judaism under the law versus faith. So these who are receiving the mark are the apostates. They are the apostates. They are those who, even though Peter and Paul are preaching to them, not only in Jerusalem, but throughout the Roman Empire, they are refusing to give up the law. They are refusing to give up circumcision. They are refusing to give up their trust in the system of law. Therefore, when the Great Tribulation broke out in 66 AD, the first thing that the Jews did, because this is what Revelation 13 is about, by the way. Revelation 13 was fulfilled in 66 AD. What the Jews did, number one, well, let's begin with people who belong to Christ. When the Great Tribulation broke out and the armies of Rome came and surrounded Israel in 66 AD for 6 days, when the disciples of Christ saw this, they remembered what Christ had told them. So when the Romans left, after 6 days, the Christians all left Jerusalem. Every one of them. They fled to the mountains, according to Matthew 16 rather. So when the Romans came back the next time, which was in 70 AD, the Christians were no longer there. But what the Jews did after that, they now forced everyone to submit to their system, the zealots. You had to be either under Simeon, you had to be under John Levi of Gishala, or you had to be under Eliezer. And whichever one you were in, they formed 3 camps. And they were fighting each other, killing one another. You could not get food within the boundaries of Jerusalem. You could not get out without authorization from these 3 leaders: Simeon, John Levi, and Eliezer. And some of these guys were actually killed, like Eliezer, and so on and so forth. But anyway, this issue of not being able to buy, Josephus writes about it. They burnt all the food so that every Jew would join in the fight and fight against the Romans. But of course, they miscalculated because they thought they were going to win. They did not win. So the issue of the mark of the beast has to do with apostasy within the city of Jerusalem in the last 3.5 years before the temple was destroyed and the wrath of God was poured out full strength for 5 months, from March to July of 70 AD. That's what Revelation 13 is about. Has nothing to do with AI, has nothing to do with our present or our future. It was fulfilled within the time boundary that John said. He says these things are about to take place. Revelation chapter 1. I am coming soon. Revelation 22. It was told to the 7 churches that were in Asia, which were under the jurisdiction of the synagogues throughout the Roman Empire, which were under the temple in Jerusalem. You had to choose wherever you went in the Roman Empire. Do you belong to the way of Christ and then you could be stoned to death by the other Jews, or do you belong to the way of the high priest and you were deemed to be safe? That's why Paul and Peter and the Christians were totally unsafe throughout the Roman Empire, so long as the Jews and their temple and their synagogues were existing, were in power. That's what Revelation 13 is about. It is not global. That can be proven. It has to do with the sacrificial system That's why they are calling fire from heaven to earth to burn the sacrifices. In any case, all the judgments that you see in Revelation are derived out of Leviticus 26. Now, if Revelation, the 7 bowls of wrath, are the 7 times that God says he will judge them in Leviticus 26, what does that have to do with America? What does that have to do with Mexico or Canada? Nothing. But it has everything to do with the people that were in the land, the people that Daniel is talking about, the people whose names are written in the book. The people who are not written in the book are also Jews, and they perish because of their rejection of the Christ. Now, let me finish here by showing you that the context of Revelation obviously is the second coming. I hope all of you would agree with that statement, that the context of Revelation 13, and any part of Revelation is talking about the second coming. I hope everyone would be able to say, yeah, that's obvious. Everybody knows that. Okay, let's follow Paul as he gives his rendition of what was to happen in those days. Let's see if Paul gives us any ideas that we can stand on. Okay, I'm going to start in 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2, verse 1. Now, concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. Are we in the right cul-de-sac? Are we in the right neighborhood? So we are talking about the coming of the Lord, the second coming, as it is called today. Okay, so Paul is going to tell us, he's going to give us an insight into Revelation, because the coming of the Lord in Revelation cannot possibly be different from the coming of the Lord in Thessalonians, right? Simple logic. Okay, so concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered together to him, we ask you, brothers, not to be quickly shaken in mind or alarmed, either by a spirit or a spoken word or a letter seeming to be from us, to the effect that the day of the Lord has come. So why would somebody even be saying the day of the Lord has come in Paul's day? If there is no justification, if Jesus is not coming in that time, why would even anybody be expecting him to come at that time? Because Jesus had said he would come during the lifetime of his disciples. That's why. So he's telling them, although he's supposed to come in this season, while some are still alive, he has not yet come. That's what Paul is saying. So let no one deceive you in any way. For that day, the day of the Lord, the day of the judgments, the 7 bowls and the 7 trumpets and the 7 seals, that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first. The revolt. And the man of lawlessness, the man who goes against the law. The man of lawlessness, that's why it's called that. The man of lawlessness. He is operating in a system of law and he contradicts the law. Jesus says, I have not come to abolish the law. I've come to fulfill the law. The man of lawlessness says, I've come to contradict the law. So how does he contradict the law? Let's see. We are told the way he contradicts the law of Moses, because that's the law in view, he opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God. Do you see? When I showed it a little bit earlier, I went to Revelation 11, and I showed you that in the Revelation 11, which is the first time that you see the beast in Revelation, it begins by telling you, I was given a measuring reed, and I was told, go and measure the temple of God. Which temple is this? Is he measuring the church? No, because he's told, measure the inner court, but do not measure the outer court. So measure the temple and the altar only. Presumably the altar inside the holy place, the altar of incense. Because the other altar was in the outer court. He's told, don't measure the outer court. But the temple that has three sections, that is the Holy of Holies and the Holy Place and the outer court, is the Jerusalem temple only. The church does not have three sections. The church does not have a Holy of Holies and a Holy Place and an outer court. The church has no curtains. The church has no divisions. So clearly he's not speaking about the church. He's talking about the temple in Jerusalem in Revelation 11. Paul says that this man of lawlessness takes his place, takes his seat, actually. He sits down like I'm seated in his seat inside the temple of God. Matthew 23 verse 1 says, the Pharisees and the scribes sit in the seat of Moses. Therefore, do whatever they tell you, but do not do what they do. That's how Jesus begins Matthew 23 verse 1. So the temple that the man of lawlessness is sitting in is the temple in Jerusalem, the temple of Moses, the temple that existed in Matthew 24 verse 1. For Matthew 24 verse 1 tells you that Jesus left the temple, and as he was going out of the temple, the disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. And he says, do you see this temple here? Do you see all these buildings here? Not a single stone will remain here that will not be thrown down. That's the temple in view. That's the temple of the end times in Matthew 24. The temple that stood there in Matthew 24. The temple that was destroyed in 70 AD. So Revelation is about that temple. It was destroyed in 70 AD. There is no temple today in Jerusalem, that is. There is only one temple of God today, the church. Now, look closely at verse 4. It's on screen. The man of lawlessness takes his seat inside the temple of God. Now, the temple of God today, which is the church, is a spiritual entity. It is not a physical place that you can go and sit in an armchair. It's something that you are only in spiritually, which means you're already born of God if you belong to that temple. So clearly, the temple that Paul is talking about that exists at the time of the coming of the Lord is a physical temple, and it is the temple of God. He takes his seat in the temple of God. Clearly, he's not speaking about a temple built by Muslims or by unbelieving Jews. So it's not the proposed third temple, because the third temple was built by Jesus and his apostles. So the temple that Paul is talking about existed in 55 AD when he writes this letter. So Paul is talking about what is about to happen in 70 AD. Look at what he says. Do you not remember, he says, do you not remember that when I was with you, when I was still with you, I told you these things? This is the second letter of Paul to the Thessalonians. And you know, pay attention, pay attention. And you know, you Thessalonians know things that Christians don't know today. What is it that the Thessalonians knew? You know what is restraining him when? Welcome, Laria. You know what is restraining him now. Meow. Now. So how can the men of lawlessness be restrained now with reference to 55 to 60 AD? Think. Let your brain cells send messages through your neurons. Think. Don't be one of those Christians who are told, leave your brain at the door. Think. If right now the man of lawlessness is not alive, let's say he's in our future, if the man of lawlessness will appear 100 years from now, can he be restrained now? I want you to think. If the man of lawlessness will come around the year 2500, can he be restrained now? Can I write to Christians across America and say, you all know what is restraining him now if he's not yet born, if he does not exist? That would be a redundant, stupid statement. It would make no sense. What I would write, I would tell you, the man of lawlessness, when he does come, will be restrained in those days before he appears. But Paul reminds the Thessalonians that the man of lawlessness was alive then, but that he was under restraint. That's why he had not yet been revealed. And when he got revealed, he was going to take his seat inside the temple of God. So that already tells you that the man of lawlessness was going to be an official of the Jerusalem temple, because he's taking his seat. He's not taking somebody else's seat.